Hey, what's up guys? It's Drew from Taylor Tech. Today we're going to be looking at something a little bit different than usual. It's still a smart home product, but it's an air purifier. GearBest actually reached out and sent me this to review. It's the Xiaomi Mi Air 2, and we're going to check it out. Let's get started. So when GearBest reached out and wanted to send me this thing, I was a little skeptical. I mean, I like to review products that are strictly smart home related, but I mean, who doesn't want fresh air in their house? And for the price point that it's at, it's under $200. It's around, right now, it's around $177 on GearBest. I thought I'd check it out. It is smart enabled. You can control it from your phone and all those sorts of things. And Xiaomi has a lineup of smart home devices, which you can also pair with this to kind of give it a little bit of some sort of automation. Right now this is the only Xiaomi device I have, but I am going to be looking into getting more after looking at this one for the past month. So yeah, I've had it for about a month now. I wanted to let it run, do its thing, and see how it's worked over the past month before doing the full review, because you can't just take something like this out of the box and review it and see how it's been. So it's advertised to eliminate with its filter 100% of large particles, 99.99% of particles of 2.5 microns or greater, and 99.3% above 0.3 microns. And the one that stuck out to me is 91% of formaldehyde. That's kind of a plus, because not saying I live in a place that has formaldehyde, but I am familiar with the dangers of formaldehyde if it is in the area, so that's a big plus. So let's take a little bit closer look at this thing. We have 3 air inputs on these 3 sides. The back is closed off, so there's no air input on the back. That's where the filter is inserted. On the front side here, we have an auto light, we have a night light, and we have a little guy with a heart, which is for your user preference setting. On the top there is the power button, which also is used to cycle through your different settings on the front, and on the back is a reset and dim button for these LED lights, as well as one LED light that's actually hidden right in this area. So looking at the filter itself, it's actually a pretty impressive filter. The one thing we can see right off the bat is that it is cylindrical. It's pretty much as big as you're going to be able to fit in this thing. But the thing you can't see is that it is actually in layers. There are 3 layers to these filters. There's the PET primary filter on the outside. There's the HEPA filter in the middle, as well as the carbon filter on the inside. And with those 3 filters, you're pretty much going to get as good as you're going to be able to get out of an air purifier like this, unless you go and spend a few grand on one of those industrial ones. So as far as the filterability, if you want to call it that, of this thing, it's actually pretty impressive, and it's very accurate. There's a lot of sensors packed into this thing that I can't even explain. They don't even describe it, but it works. Let me just say that. So as soon as I got this thing, of course I plugged it in and went to set it up in the Xiaomi Mi app. And the issue that I had was the server that it wanted me to use. Of course, I'm here in the US, so it wanted me to use the United States North America server, which makes sense, but it actually didn't show up a lot of the devices that Mi offers, this being one of them. So I was kind of confused, and I actually switched the server to the US Singapore server, which does have this air purifier in its list. I may have to go back and switch it out later if they do support it for the US, but everything's been working fine ever since I switched the server to Singapore. So keep that in mind if you do go ahead and pick one of these up. So here within the app itself is this device. I just plugged it in, so you may be able to hear it going a little bit. It's on auto right now, so it's very quiet. It shows at the top here, the spinning circle. It's the PM 2.5 estimate, and what that means is basically just the amount of particles that the sensors inside are picking up. So 10 is pretty good. Anything under 50 is good. Anything over, say, 100, you want to start to be worried. But that should, if you do have one of these, you should be seeing that number drop rapidly as soon as it kicks into turbo mode, as they call it, which you can set in your favorite settings, but it should automatically kick up if it has a high number in the PM 2.5 estimate. Now, real quick on that, at first I was kind of worried that this number up here is just kind of an estimate. Maybe the sensors aren't that accurate. So I wanted to go ahead and test it out myself. I was actually vacuuming one day by hand. I know the Roomba has been letting me down lately, but I was vacuuming by hand and I was vacuuming next to it. And you know when you vacuum, it kind of kicks up a little bit of dust maybe. I pulled out my phone to look at this and it was actually at 50. So I knew that those particles from vacuuming picked it up. So I watched my phone for the next 20-30 minutes and it dropped back down to around this 10 number, which it is usually at. So that tells me right there that it is picking up those extra particles. So a few other things it tells you is the temperature of the room in Celsius. I haven't found a way to change that to Fahrenheit, but that's all right. Shows you the humidity level, the comfort setting, your filter life remaining, and it advertises to last for 3 to 6 months depending on your level of pollutants in the air. And it tells you how much clean air has been delivered in meter cubed, as well as the running time. So as you can see, this has been running for 1167 hours. That tells you how long I've had it. And down at the bottom here, we can actually turn it off. Hear that? So it's really responsive. At the top here, see that it's turned off and it tells you the filter remaining. And we can change the mode. Sleep mode is as quiet as it gets. And it also changes the color here. And favorite is however you want to set it. You can adjust the fan speed with this slider here. So I have it all the way up right now. And actually, as I did that, I can actually see some particles floating in the air and going into the side. So I can slide this over and you can hear the fan start to wind down. So this thing really does crank up. So if I turn it all the way down, it's going to be quiet again. But actually most of the time, I just have it on the auto setting because it does its job. It goes off of the PM2 estimate, or I'm sorry, the PM2 2.5 estimate, and if it reads higher, it's going to turn up that fan to allow you to clean that air. And actually, as you can see, it jumped up to 30 because when I cranked up the fan, more stuff was running in there. So that just goes to show you that it does work. So another thing to mention is the form factor. It is actually pretty small. As you can see, it's about the size of my torso here, and it's probably about a foot by a foot square, and it is pretty inconspicuous in your room. They do want you to put it in the center of your room, as close to the center as you can, obviously, to get the air from everywhere. That's kind of impractical for most cases. I have mine up against the wall with about a foot of gap behind it, and it's been working okay. I think it's kind of hard to tell if it is working, but it does give our family peace of mind that we are getting pure air throughout the house with the 3-layer filters. You can also pick up the filters if you want a few extra on GearBest also. I'll leave links to this guy as well as the filters down in the description box below. So, is it worth it at this price point of $177 right now? I'll put the current price right here as of the upload date. I think yes, definitely, because it's actually one of the cheapest purifiers you can get at all, and it's smart. You can control everything from your phone. You don't need to go up to it and push this button to cycle through everything. It does everything you want it to do. It tells you a lot of information. It actually tells you how many particulates are in the air at any given time. So now for some of the downsides, one of which being an auto turn off feature. I know some of these air purifiers have an auto turn off when maybe it senses a little bit less. So now for the downsides. This thing has a few downsides. The first being that it doesn't have an auto turn off feature. So it's always going to be on unless you manually turn it off in the app or from the device itself. Other devices have the ability to turn off when it doesn't sense as much pollutants in the air. That's not a big deal for me because I like knowing that it's always on, it's always purifying the air constantly, and if it needs to kick up to a higher RPM, it will do that on its own in the auto setting. The other downside in my situation, which shouldn't affect you guys, but I'm going to mention it anyway, I'll go ahead and turn it off, is this. So I received the Chinese Australia, I think this is a Type I plug. Obviously, I'm in the US and this plug does not work for me. So all I had to do was get this adapter, so it worked out for me. It makes it a little bit more bulky off the wall, but just when you go to check out, make sure you check the, if you're in the US, check the Canadian US plug and you shouldn't have this issue. So in the end, is it worth it? I think it's definitely worth it. The downsides are not that big of a deal, and being able to turn it on and off and change the settings and see what's going on from your phone anywhere in the world is pretty handy. Like I said, the filters last anywhere between 3 to 6 months. It'll tell you right on the app. You don't have to listen to that. I'm sure you can get away with a little bit more than 6 months if you don't live in a terrible environment that is really bad. So in doing my research for this device, I actually came across another video of a guy that was reviewing it, and he set up a smoke room where he lit a bunch of tobacco, probably cigarettes or something, in a smoke room. I don't know if it was in his house or garage or whatever, but he set this up and actually noticed the PM 2.5 count jump up to 600 for a couple hours, and was able to filter out all of that cigarette smoke. So if you do smoke in the house and you want that clean air, this may be a good option for you. You're probably gonna have to go with that 3-month filter life. He said within 2 or 3 hours, it was able to filter out all the cigarette smoke, and it dropped that PM 2.5 back down to around 25. So that's a big plus. You don't want that smoke lingering around, or any pollutants for that matter. So that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I will have links to this product and the filters down in the description box below. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.